Touche.
Welcome to my stream, everybody. This is your boy Touche, and we're going to be talking about the Wanderer class in this video. I want to preface that Wanderer is top-notch in both PvE, PvP. I would say it's S tier when it comes to both of those scenarios, and if you don't really have a Wanderer, but you're choosing to be a Wanderer, you're making the right decision. You can't go wrong. It's such an easy class to play, such an easy class to build. You're going to be always needed and always wanted in every type of scenario. So that being said, let's get started. I want to talk about PvE first. So what we're going to do is first go over the skills that you want to take in PvE. I'm going to quickly go through this without actually really deep diving into some of those skills. We'll cover that later on. But for the most part, Owl Eye, Vulture's Eye, and Elemental Arrow, those are going to be your top three that you take as a Wanderer. You don't really need anything else on the PvE side on the first tree. The second tree, moving into Dancer, you're going to be taking a Dancing Lesson, Throw Arrow, Energy Beat, Encore, and Adaptation. This is mainly for those individuals in PvE that are going to be grinding. Beyond that, you don't need to worry. You can take the buffs based on what you need and where you want to allocate your skill points. Humming, in my opinion, is the best. But once you get into the Wanderer skill type, you're not going to be using Humming or any of these other buffs, because what you'll be focusing on is the next skill, which is Eternal Chaos. This skill is just a chef's kiss. It's just so good, and because it's a party buff, anyone within the range of the skill actually gets the buff itself, which is so strong when it comes to PvE group content as well as solo content, where you're able to basically just give yourself an insane amount of final magic or physical damage bonus. And I hope you understand this. Final physical, final magic damage bonus are both outside of the formula of all the other calculations. It is literally the only calculation or factor that comes into play after everything else has been calculated. So having more damage output just from this stat is going to be insane when it comes to the overall damage you do on bosses, on MVPs, on instances, on trials, whatever it may be when it comes to the PvE content. Moving on to what you want to be taking as a Gypsy once you unlock it is Arrow Vulcan, Severe Rainstorm. So these four skills are going to be your main damage dealing rotational skills that you use as a Gypsy until you unlock the Wanderer. As a Gypsy, you also want to be taking all of your passives. So you want to take the stat buff from Lesson, because it gives you max XP, max SP regen, but it also gives you movement speed, which is going to be so much more important than the other two factors here. Polymetric Note will give you the increases your physical attack by 1.5 per stack, and you can get 10 stacks of this, so that's a total of 15% P attack increase just from having this passive after you use a solo skill and have it active for a certain period of time. So that's really strong. It's one of the better passives that you get. Longing for Freedom, you don't need to worry about this until you get into the Wanderer class type. It's mainly useful when you're using Ensemble as a clown and a Gypsy in a party. Something that you may not know is that you can't actually have a Gypsy and a Gypsy perform an ensemble together. You need a clown and a Gypsy, which makes it really incredibly annoying when you're trying to do an instance, but 2 slots of your party are covered by a clown and a Gypsy, having to be there so that they can pop the ensemble buff, which is basically a type of buff that they offer. So there's solo buff, and there's a solo buff, and there's a ensemble buff. A solo buff is something that a Gypsy or a clown can perform on their own. They don't need another Gypsy or another clown in the party with them. However, a ensemble skill is something that a Gypsy needs a clown in the party for, and a clown needs another Gypsy in the party for. And the way you get into that party to be able to use your ensemble skills is by having ensemble invitation. I didn't cover the skill previously, mainly because I was going to cover it once we go over to the Wanderer class type, but the ensemble skill is super great if you're trying to basically use your ensemble skills, mainly because it also gives you 15% less damage at max level when you use an ensemble skill, which is super strong because ensemble skills are a ranged based buff, and you actually have to be within a certain range to be able to give it to yourself and others. And so being able to survive within that circle for a longer period of time is amazing. That being said, you can take Fortune's Kiss if you're with a class that basically uses crit. Other than that, I wouldn't use Fortune's Kiss. Remember Me, in my opinion, is meh. It's a PvP skill for the most part. And once you get the Wanderer skill for regenning HP, I don't personally use it, but Remember Me is still a great debuff you want to offer to your party members to be able to reduce the enemy's haste overall. That being said, Wink of Charm is going to be your PvP skill, and we're not covering PvP just yet. We'll go over that later on. But going over PvE skills, you want to take Lirad's Dew as well, mainly because it offers you damage reduction, but also gives you HP. So it's an amazing skill. You should always use it if you can in PvE. What I try to do is when there's going to be a one-shot mechanic, I always pop Lyriads, and then that helps to reduce the damage that everybody in my party takes. Because it's not just for yourself, it gives it to everybody in your party. And it lasts for 10 seconds, so that's insanely strong. That being said, Great Echo is great to have, but the only downside is that it uses a throat lozenge. So it's an expensive skill to use, because to use it actively, you have to have a throat lozenge within your inventory to actively use it. So a throat lozenge is basically an item that gypsies and clowns specifically use, and it seems like I don't have any on me. However, the way you get them is through the Chamber of Commerce, which I can pull up here. It's going to be under the other section, and you can buy 1,000 a day. Let me go ahead and do that. But you can also get them from the Sundries Merchant, but the Sundries Merchant offers it for a higher price, so that's why you don't really want to be using the lozenges when you don't need to be. So in my opinion, that's why Great Echo is not the greatest, but at the end of the day, if that's what you prefer to use, go ahead. The ensemble skill that you want to use in PvE once you unlock Wanderer is going to be Eternal Chaos, because of the final damage buff that it offers your team members as well as yourself. Invulnerable Siegfried is great as well, because it helps to reduce damage taken from elementals, but it doesn't really help you when it comes to applying damage, right? It's more of like a, oh shit, my team's not that strong, let me use Invulnerable to help protect them and not let them die. So in my opinion, I don't really use it as much. Eternal Chaos is just too good to give up, and it's on such a short cooldown that for the most part, you want to be popping it as much as you can. We'll be talking about a tactic on how you can actually double buff later on, but moving into the Wanderer class, this is job 3, and it unlocks a lot of potential with this class. So you actually unlock another passive that gives you more damage. You unlock a ability to use a basic active ability to give you more damage. You unlock the ability to solo ensemble, which is the best part of this class. And you also get a res, which is insane to me. It's not a guaranteed res, it is a percentage res, but it's still so strong that it's on such a short cooldown. It's actually shorter than the regular res is on Priest, so keep that in mind. Now, kind of going over the job 3 skills, we have Metallic Sound. One of the hardest hitting skills that we have. It also offers a stun, so this is great in PvP if you would like to use it. Get it if you can, but I wouldn't prioritize it until you unlock the other skills that I'm going to go over here. So Fate Turret, in my opinion, unlock as a must. It has 4 different types that it offers in terms of buffs. It offers a HP recovery based on the P attack you have per second, increases your M attack, increases your P attack, or increases your final damage reduction. So based on the roll that you get from using this, it offers these 4 different buffs. So you can keep rolling until you get the buff you want, and then keep rolling again. It's kind of like the mastering, if anything. So yeah, that's a little bit of the Fate Turret. The Lullaby skill is something that puts enemies to sleep, which is insane when it comes to PvP, because it's another debuff that you can't cleanse. It's insane, right? So you want to be running Lullaby where you can. Sleeping targets cannot move. Their P damage and M damage reduction is reduced by 35%. So that's just insane to me. Sleep will be removed after taking hits by ranged or melee by 5 times, or up to 5 times. And awakened targets cannot be sent into sleep after 16. Cannot be sent into sleep in 16 seconds. The performance lasts 30 seconds and consumes 20 SP per second. So one of those skills where really you want to take it if you can in PvP. PvE, it doesn't really offer any kind of benefit. Dominion Impulse, one of those skills that, again, it's kind of like the Great Echo skill you have here. Great in PvP, not the greatest in PvE because it uses a throat lozenge and basically acts as like a skill that sits on the ground when you use it. So you throw it out, it rotates, and it does damage in that area. So it's great when you're on a boss that doesn't really move a lot, but other than that, it's not the greatest when it comes to regular PvE where you're killing mobs fast. You have Valley of Death, like I mentioned. It is an RNG res that exists, and it is okay for the most part when it's not leveled up, but you want to try and get this maxed because it is just another res that you have as a buff damage class, which is insane to me. This class literally has everything. There's the Ensemble Myriad, which is the ability for you to be able to use ensemble skills solo. You have to keep this in mind that the Myriad skill is only level 5, so when you use a solo ensemble, it's going to only use up to the level 5 of that skill version. So realistically, you're not getting the full level 10 amount from using the ensemble. However, it's still better than not having an ensemble or having to have a clown in the party to use an ensemble as a gypsy, or wanderer in this case. The Reverberation is the passive you get to Dominion Impulse. It basically gives you stacks, which increases your Dominion Impulse's damage by a percentage. So again, great skill if you can apply it to a target that's sitting still and will take all the hits, but otherwise it's one of those things that it's niche, very niche. Nature's Circle is great because it basically gives you a dot heal around your party based on your P attack, plus it scales with your int and agi. So great to have if you need another, if you can't find a priest, you have this fucking class that basically heals and reses, but also offers you insane amounts of buffs. You have the Dance with Warg, which is going to be great for PvP, not the greatest in PvE. I would ignore it in PvE. You have Myriad Control, which is one of those skills that lets you jump to a certain point. Not the greatest in PvE when you're trying to just grind mobs and you can just stand still and range them. So this skill will actually move you, which is not what you really want to be doing. Kind of just want to be standing there and just autoing, or not autoing, but using your skills. This will just make it so that you jump to a target or location. Great for PvE, or great for PvP, I should say. Because it allows you to jump onto targets that are running away from you. Then you have Lingering Sound, which is going to be insane when it comes to being a buff bot. Let's move into my buffer build here. So you have Lingering Sound, which allows you to basically leave the buff that is a solo skill apply to yourself and your party members after it's been deactivated, so for a certain period of time. So for example, for Humming, which is the P attack, Moonlight Serenade, which is the Elemental, Fortune Kiss, the Crit, and the Nature Circle, which is the heal. Out of these 4 skills, which are solo buffs, if any of them end, their buffs will continue to last for 6 seconds. And this effect cannot be triggered more than once every 30 seconds. The effect increases by 1 second for every 600 agi or int that you have. And that's insane. That is very, 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 very strong. And I'll tell you why. So in this case, if you have 6,000, you would have to have 600 times 15, which would be, let me do quick maths, 9,000. So if you have 9,000 agi or 9,000 int, whichever one is higher, you're going to add another 15 seconds to the 6 seconds, making it 21 seconds that one of these skills lasts for after you've deactivated. And here's why that is broken. When you manually deactivate Nature Circle, Humming, Moonlight Serenade, or Fortune's Kiss, and you deactivate it using adaptation, you can then pop Eternal Chaos or invulnerable Siegfried and or battle drum and give your party both buffs at the same time. And you can rotate this over and over. And you know why that's busted? Because when you're on auto, you can only pop an ensemble skill or a solo skill. However, when you're manually playing, you're able to then offer your team both buffs. So both a solo and an ensemble buff, which is insane amounts of damage. Consider this. When we look at, let's say, humming, for example, humming gives you 30% P pen, final P pen, and 30% P damage bonus, or 500 P damage bonus. On top of that, it lasts for 21 seconds outside of it being cancelled when I have 9,000 agi, which I don't in this case, but if I did. Keep that in mind. The skill's fixed cooldown is 20 seconds. With this, at max, I get 21 seconds of that skill being active. I hope the light is clicking in people's brains. That is busted. You're able to pop humming, cancel, pop eternal. And you know what? I have eternal chaos for 18 seconds and I have humming for another however long based on my agi and int. What I do next is I cancel and I pop humming. I wait for eternal to come back up and I pop cancel and I pop eternal. Ideally, what you want to be doing is not swapping between the two often. You want to wait until eternal is up, cancel, pop humming, cancel, pop eternal until eternal runs out, then run the same rotation back again. That's ideally how you would want to do it to ensure that you're getting as much buff time as possible out of your buffs. But that is why this passive is insanely broken. You want to be making sure that you're taking this, especially as a buffer. Finally, Dances with Warg. That's more of a PvP skill. You don't need to worry about it in PvE. And that pretty much covers PvE when it comes to the Dancer or Wanderer skills. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the buffing side of things. This is my build for Buffer Dancer. You want to prioritize basically all your passives and your buffs at this stage. You don't want to be worrying about your damage skills until you have enough skill points put into everything else. So what I'm going to do here is talk about how you want to prioritize skill points. You want to go into Owl's Eye, Vulture's Eye, and Elemental Arrow. Those are your 3 bread and butter. You want to move into Dancing Lesson, get that. Don't unlock Throw Arrow. You want to get Ugly Dance to 5, get Humming to 10, get Ensemble Invitation to 10 because of this 15% less damage. Get Adaptation to 10, Encore to 10, and that's it. You move on. You want to get your Eternal Chaos to 10, Longing for Freedom. You know how we talked about Longing for Freedom only working when you're ensemble? Well, now in Wanderer, you're solo ensemble, so you want to be able to move around when you're using the ensemble skill. So you want to get this to 10. You want to get Lesson to 10, Polymetric to 10, and Lirads to 10. These are what you would focus on, and then moving to the Wanderer skills. You want to get the Marriott. Obviously, you want to max that out. You want to get Fate Turret. You want to max that out. Valley of Death, again, is niche based on if you want to have a res as a skill. It's not something you mandatory need if you don't want to take it in a party. You want to get Nature Circle to 5 to be able to unlock Lingering Sound. It's up to you if you want to max this out and get this to 10. Personally, I wouldn't want to do that, just mainly because I'm not going to be using it in my rotation. If I'm being an active Gypsy or Wanderer in this case for PvE. That's pretty much it. Then you move back up. Then you go to your Throw Arrow, get that to 5, get Energy Beat to 5, Vulcan Arrow to 5, Brainstorm to 5, and then move back up and get the other skills to 10. That's the way I would go about it in terms of building your class out for being a buffer, but also being able to use skills in PvE. Now, moving into PvP, we'll cover that really quickly here. PvP wise, I would say this class is just one of those classes that is the most annoying pieces of shit that has existed within this game. What you want to be taking is Freeze Trap. It's one of your skills that will help to lock down targets. Again, taking Owl's Eye, Vulture's Eye, Elemental Arrow. Dancing lesson. Don't worry about your damage skills. You don't need them as much. You're mainly not going to be a damage dealer anyways. You won't have enough damage. You want to be a CC bot in PvP. So you want to get Ensemble Invitation because you're going to be popping the heal Nature's Circle for yourself, which is actually a solo skill now that I'm realizing it. So maybe this doesn't even have any impact. So yeah, ignore that comment. I'll actually be taking this out after realizing that. You want to take Encore. You want to take Adaptation. And Adaptation, for the most part, you just want to have slotted, because what it does is just by having it slotted, you get that haste. So you really want that. You want to take Wink of Charm. This is a uncancelable, unpanaceable skill that helps you to lock down targets. They basically will just follow you whenever you charm them within that range. The rotation you want to do is you want to charm, freeze trap on top of them, and then charm again. Keep rotating that over and over and over and over and over. I haven't unlocked Lullaby yet, but I will be getting that next. My priority would be to get Lullaby next. I would likely take out the Nature Circle or lower the level just so I can get Lullaby as a skill. But you want to mainly be doing Wink, Freeze, Dance with Warg, and then Lullaby. Keep rotating those 4, and that will just make it so that your enemies hate you even more and more. I have Dominion in here. I believe I mistakenly took that. I am going to be taking that out. I want to put Lingering Sound at 10. You want to put Harmonize at max. Dance with Warg is basically a skill where whenever somebody stands near you, they just start dancing with you, bro, and they can't cancel out of it. So while under the exhaustion effect, deals neutral damage and ignores their defense based on their max HP, and reduces their max HP, SP and healing received by 3 seconds. The target ends with the Wildly Dance, will not enter into it again after 9 seconds. The coefficient increases by 1 for each one of these based on the number of bards and dancer characters in the party. Keep in mind, it also takes a throat lozenge, so it is going to consume your throat lozenges in PvP, so you want to be making sure that you're not actually using your throat lozenges for Dominion, for Great Echo in PvE, because obviously you want to keep it for PvP. Great Echo is also great for PvP. I actually do need to change my skills a little bit to take that. I would drop taking the what's it called, Dominion Impulse and the passive here for getting Great Echo and Lullaby, mainly because Great Echo also gives you the what's it called, it increases your damage by 6% up to 75%. So that's pretty strong. I mean, you do more damage, right? Like, your skills are gonna be stronger. And it's not like Lullaby, or sorry, not Lullaby, but Dance with Warg. It's not like it doesn't do damage. It's not like your Marionette's control doesn't do damage. And ideally, in the future, once I get enough skill points, I will be taking Arrow Vulcan, Severe Liberating Storm, Throw Arrow, and Energy Bead. Those are going to be my damaging skills. So keep that in mind. That's why you would want to take Great Echo, but at the end of the day, you can't really take Great Echo if you don't have the skill points for it. So I wouldn't prioritize that over taking Lyrads, for example, because Lyrad obviously gives you a DR buff, and you want to be ensuring that you're keeping yourself, your teammates alive, and buffing them and debuffing your enemies more than you are trying to do damage. That's pretty much it for the PvP side of things in terms of the skills. Now let's move into how you want to build the class. So in PvE, whether you're DPS, whether you're buffer, it's pretty much built the same. The only thing that'll differ is your enchants. So in PvE, as a damage skill, a damage type, this is what I have. I would say if you want to go damage, you want to build Odin's. If you want to go buffer, you want to go Valks. If you want to kind of do both, you go Valks, mainly because it gives you the best of both worlds. You take less damage anyways. Odin's, for it to activate, you need to take damage, which is counterintuitive to what you're trying to do, as this class is designated as a buff bot in PvE. You want to try and get the jump rope gold weapon, mainly because of this cooldown reset. It's super helpful when you're trying to be a buff bot, because like I mentioned before, with their eternal what's it called, the solo skill, taking that, canceling, going into your internal, you see how that it got reset right away. That just helps to ensure that in case I have to run out because the boss runs away, I can pop my solo skill right away, right? So that's why jump rope is so strong in PvE. It's also something you can sub out for the wires in PvE, just if you want to go more damage. However, jump rope is just going to be all inclusive when it comes to versatility in PvE and PvP. Mainly in PvP, it's super useful to be able to reset your Wink of Charm and all these other skills that you're going to be taking. So that's why I would suggest taking jump rope in PvP and PvE. Moving into your talisman, you want to be trying to get the Agi talisman. If you can't, you want to try and get a blue or white Agi talisman. If you want to go for the blue, you can get the Agi Vit talisman. Beyond that, you want to be trying to get gold Agi talismans here. If you can't afford them, go for the blue ones. But you want to try and build out as much Agi as possible. Right now, I am sitting at 5.8. When I get the pet buff, I sit around 5.9. So consider that being a 155% increase in my final P damage based off of the fact that I also have the SE that increases my final P damage for party members while using Eternal Chaos. So yeah, that's pretty much how you want to build it for PvE in terms of the gear. The cards you want to take, I would suggest would be these. For your cloak, you want to get Agi, so you want to get the Baffle Junior card. Ideally, if you can slot out both, that's great. If you can't afford the Valk or the Odin set, use the white set that gives you 2 cards. Use the level 40 until you hit level 70. That's going to be great for you because level 71 makes it so that any type of debuff is automatically cleansed from you after it applies to you once, and there's then some sort of cooldown applied to it. So let me show you what that looks like here. So the bone plate here, for example, the Moonlight Gift. Every 6 seconds, you remove a negative status and grants immunity to negative statuses for 2 seconds. This is great in PvE because bosses that stun, bosses that root, whatever it may be, they don't do that anymore. You just fucking walk out of that shit. So it's great for that purpose if you can't seem to get Valk or Odin's or don't want to invest into it. That being said, moving back to cards, you want to be getting the Sky Petite because there's nothing better, at least for what I have, just for more HP, for survivability. You want to get a Baby Orcs for more survivability, like I said, more Vit. Bloody Knights, and ideally if I had the second slots in both of my accessories, I would run 2 more Bloody Knights. And then for my head, I would run 3 field wielding goblin cards for the Agi, and then 3 Majuros for the Agi. As you can see, I've heavily delved into the Agi. I do have the Orc Hero card, mainly to stop me from being stunned. This helps with buffing and keeping others alive. And yeah, that's pretty much it. For stat distribution, I have gone pure Vit and Agi. Moving into the enchantments, I have Agi, more Agi, more Agi. If you're starting out, you want to be focusing on the Pantera Agi enchants for everything. If you're going DPS, you want to get the size enchants for your weapon and your accessories from Payon. So you want to get the accessory and the weapon enchants from here. Beyond that, if you don't want to worry about all that shit, just go for straight Agi. Get Geffen enchants on your accessories, Pantera enchants on your armors, and if you're a Kraken or a whale, go for the Glassheim for your weapon and armor. That's pretty much it for the enchants. Pure Agi, like I said, for PvE, you're literally a fucking buff bot, and you want to put anywhere you can't get Agi, you want to put Vit is the way you want to approach it. Focus on Agi. If you can't get it, get Vit. That's the way I would look at it. Now, moving into the PvP side of things, this is where it gets interesting. For building, what I've done is gone, right now I have 2 Lord necklaces, which is centered around getting more Vit. I would suggest getting Eclipse rings if you can and afford them, mainly because that'll just give you more HP and survivability. I do find the way it is right now, you want to continue using jump rope because you want to get that cleanse. Get your Devache cards for deep damage. You want to get your final P damage reduction from Geffen for your armors on your Murphys. For enchants, you want to run these cards here if you can. Kraken for invising out. Wormtail because I have the Orc Hero card for freeze resistance. If I didn't have Orc Hero, I would actually put in Omenio cards here because you won't have enough stun resistance otherwise. I have Wraith here to reduce the amount of crit damage I take. Ideally, I would swap these out for immobilization cards, Bloody Knights, but I just haven't done that yet. And then I have Nightmares here to help me survive more of the damage in PvE since I'm not going to be able to necessarily heal myself. But that being said, that's pretty much it for the class. I will just cover over the SE side of things really quickly here. So for SE, I would 100% recommend just taking Energy Beat. If you use Moonlight Serenade in PvP, I would say you're a troll. But I mean, if you want, go ahead. Nothing's stopping you. I can't change that. For the second level here, for the Engraved, you can use throw arrows if you want to go damage in PvP. Otherwise, you can use the level 1 throw arrows for PvE to increase your P-Pen, because otherwise you're not really going to be able to build P-Pen otherwise for yourself. So this just gives you like 15.6% P-Pen, which is pretty decent and significant considering you're not building it anywhere else. But really what you want to be running is Humming as a buffer, because like I mentioned, if you're actively buffing, you want to be running both Humming and Eternal Chaos at the same time and giving your party members as many buffs as possible and increasing their damage as much as possible. At the end of the day, that's the goal of this class in Job 3. For the validation, you want to get Eternal Chaos, focusing on that mainly. You can get Arrow Vulcan if you don't have Solo Ensemble unlocked yet as a Wanderer, so if you're still a Gypsy, feel free to level up Arrow Vulcan. In my opinion, I would say just wait until you get Wanderer, save those mats, because the validation mats are pretty expensive. And then finally, Job 4 SCs, I would say there's not really anything that's like top notch on here. I would say take Great Echo for PvP, but beyond that, it's pretty much preference based on what you feel like you want to take. If you're trying to be sustained, take the Nature Circle. If you want to do more damage, Dominion Impulse would do a lot more damage. Again, on targets that can stand still, etc. So yeah, that's pretty much Gypsy in a nutshell. The last thing I want to cover is the pets. So Gypsy isn't the greatest when it comes to aggroing far mobs that are spread out. So the Skeleton Archer is great for helping with that for PvE. For PvP, Isis all the way if you're trying to be damage. And then Sasquatch or the Feroni if you're trying to do control type in PvP. So in KVM, I would say go control type. In GVG, just go straight damage. So that's the way I've built it out. I would say trait-wise, you want to take, for PvE, take Assault Leader if you're going the Skeleton Archer route. Ideally, you take, if I could get a gold here, I would get Assault Leader, Medium Research, Large Research, and Singer. Those are the most common PvE characteristics that everyone takes. Beyond that, you want to get as much agi as possible, so obviously getting the increased agi, getting Final Break to help reduce the final bonus damage you do, as well as reducing the amount of final damage you take, up to 4 stacks. And then finally an agi here. You want to focus on your pets all having Vit, agi, and int, mainly because you scale off int and agi in some of your skills, so it's great to have both. I do realize I have a dex here. It's only because I couldn't roll the int in those slots, but otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what's next.